Good morning, dear fellas. Welcome to a new session. Welcome, Renata, Krishna, Nayareth, Derek, Francisca, Aixa, and Benjamin. How are you doing today? I hope you're doing great. Well, in a previous lesson, we were discussing regarding some metalinguistic contents like reflexive and intensive pronouns. And today we should be dealing a little bit with lexical contents. And here we go. I'm going to share my screen and show you what's going to happen today. According to the calendar, we are in this week right here, which is from the 20th to the 24th. Se menciona la entrega del assessment 1, que sería las short stories, vale 34% of the final grade, and el plazo es hasta mañana a las 12 de la noche. Si alguien se va a atrasar, avísenme por WhatsApp para no bajarle la nota, ¿ya? If you got any questions about the short stories, alguna duda, ¿cierto? Let me know. Pero el plazo es hasta mañana a las 12, ¿ya? I got some of your short stories, of course, but I'm going to start checking them and correcting them from Saturday on, right? And as I told you, we were studying a little bit yesterday about the reflexive and reciprocal pronouns, sorry, reflexive and intensive pronouns. I'm going to record later, I think between today and tomorrow, I'm going to record a capsule regarding reciprocal pronouns, comparative for equivalence y todo el resto de materia que falta porque estamos un poquito behind. Entonces, todo lo que falta como zero definite and definite articles y collective nouns lo voy a grabar en la cápsula, ¿ya? Because next week we're going to start unit number 2, yeah, society and media, right? Así que todo lo que falte lo vamos a ver en este caso de grammar contents, lo voy a grabar en la cápsula y lo voy a subir a Campus. Y politics and bureaucracy is pretty much the topic for today regarding lexical, in this case, issues. So let's do this. Let's get down to business. Politics in this case is pretty much regarding the broader sense of politics, is pretty much the science or the discipline that studies the social or the government interactions in societies. That's pretty much the general definition of politics, right? As is, and of course you can, you know, it's discipline in science by definition, right? Now, when we talk about applied politics, you know, like things that are going on regarding political scenarios and elections and systems of government, it's not the same as political parties. The political parties is just a part of the big picture, right? And they can be, political parties can be good, can be mediocre, can be evil, can be good. Give me a second. Give me only 1 second. I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Right. So I was dealing a little bit with the definition of politics, but also the what we see on TV, what we see on social media is pretty much how, like, the interactions, like how we humans um, apply the political principles in our lives. Okay, we know that in our country there are a lot of problems with politicians, which is different because politics is pretty much the concept, but politicians are the problem because imperfect human beings trying to apply, in this case, political principles or doctrines is pretty much like a disaster, in my personal opinion. So that's why we are experiencing a political crisis today in many democracies, not only in Chile. I think that like several democracies around the world are experiencing a lot of problems because of not only politicians but also mm, people who just do not know how to live in a democracy, right? Um, I don't want to blame the people in general. I'm just saying that there are some groups which are anti-democracies and they prefer to live in a different way. Anyway, I'm going to ask one of you guys to read types of government. Maybe I don't know. Let's say Benjamin. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, man. Can you help us with the reading types of government, please?
All the paragraph.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm not at home, so maybe you could hear some background noise. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Monarchy, a state ruled by a king or queen. There are also countries that have a monarchy, but the monarch is not the ruler. Example, the United Kingdom. A republic, a state governed by representatives, men or women chosen by people, sorry, and a president. Example, USA or France. People who believe in the system are Republicans. Democracy, a system of government in which leaders are chosen by the people. Example, France or the UK. People who believe in this system are Democrats. Dictatorship, a system of government in which one people rules the country. One person has the total power. This person is called a dictator, I think.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Uh,
It's an
good.
honor.
Nice reading, man. All right. So we got this for only four types of government. I think they're not all of the types of government, of course, but they are like pretty much to initiate the discussion, right? You know that before the French Revolution in 1789, there were monarchies around the world, um, especially in Europe, and the big superpowers like Spain and France, Great Britain. They formed empires and that ruled the world. Um, and monarchies were, in that case, the form of government, right? But after the French Revolution, that had a ripple effect around the world, and then all the colonies started to war to, in this case, obtain their independence. And then after that, every nation started to adopt, in this case, of a type of government, a form of, in this case, ruling their nations, republics, democracies, etc. Dictatorships, in this case, were part of the 20th century. Of course, there were many countries with different dictatorships. Until today, there are nations who got dictators or kings, like pretty much the Arab countries. And some people are okay with that, some others not. And just like in every epoch. Now, regarding the Western civilization and our culture in this case, we normally deal with republics and democracies, right? According to this definition, the republic is a state governed by representatives, right? A republic is formed by representatives in this case, and it's the way in which the state, as a social organ, in this case as a social institution, organize a nation, right? And rule a nation. And a democracy is a system of government, which is, in this case, these leaders are chosen by the people. For example, prime minister, presidents, etc., and also congressmen and congress women in general, right? Um, so the point is that I was saying that the democratic systems are in crisis because first, the representatives in this case, or um, the people who have been elected by, in this case, the voters, the citizens, are not are misrepresenting the popular will, right? And that's pretty much like a really bad thing for democracies, of course. And also, in this case, there are some groups in every democracy which would prefer maybe a dictatorship, or would prefer a different system, or just no type of government. Uh, uh, but there's no, in this case, anarchism is not part of the list in this case, but anarchism is also a form of a type of government, right? But it's pretty much different because normally they are more closer to federations or communities, independent community and autonomous communities, who can, in this case, become federations. That's pretty much part of the anarchist, let's say, political doctrine, and it's a very interesting, point of view to see, in this case, governments, how to rule a society, right? But it's way different from the system that we're living today. Anyway, you know that anarchism is not the same as chaos, right? Anarchism as a political movement is very interesting. There are books written about that. There are very specific, in this case, reference like Bakunin, for example, and you should read them. Very interesting. Anyway, um, regarding political beliefs in this case, we're going to deal with some of them because there are many, many different, in this case, doctrines, political doctrines around the world, combinations like of different ideas, etc. We got conservatism, that like the nouns in this case, abstract nouns, or in this case, types of doctrine: conservatism, socialism, social democracy, liberalism, communism, and fascism, to mention only some of them, right? And personal nouns in this case, so you can call somebody this way, or somebody can be called in this way: a conservative, a socialist, a social democrat, a liberal, a communist, and a fascist, right? If you use them as adjectives, you say a conservative person, a socialist person, a social democrat person, a liberal person, etc., etc., right? Example: people who believe in social democracy are social democrats, right? So you can use this column, the second column, as nouns or adjectives, all right? But of course, what is social democracy? Good question, Derek. I'm gonna let you know. Actually, we're gonna discuss that thing with a chart that I'm gonna show you, regarding political positions or political stance, right? But a social democrat in this case is pretty much a combination of socialism, a person who believes in socialism and democracy at the same time, right? It's pretty much like the merge. Okay, so you can, in this case, take some principles from socialism and from democracy, and then actually that's pretty much a political party. There are social democrat political parties around the world, especially in the European system, because in the United States, you got only the Republicans and the Democrats, but within them, there are many different, like, it's a fan, es un abanico, it's a there are many shades in this case of colors, right? I would say shades of gray. Quiero que más exacto es shades of gray. An ample and broad fan of you know, political positions, right? So political positions in this case, we can play a game in this case and try to paint yourself or ourselves in some part of the chart that I'm going to show you, right? What does it mean to be a socialist or a conservative? Often it means different things in different countries, but in Britain, specifically in this case, they often talk about someone's political position like this, left wing or on the left, which is equals socialist, middle of the road in the center or liberals, and right wing or on the right, which are conservatives, right? In Chile, it might be different. United States, pretty much the same thing, right? Different story. But we can place them using, in this case, this chart, which is, I think, a little more explanatory about the political positions. You got up, down, left, right, okay? So when we talk about up, we're talking about totalitarian governments. Let's say China, which is not the same as Mao because it's very different from Mao in the 20th century, but still it's a totalitarian government. North Korea, of course. And in this case, we got this element in this, dictatorships. One political party, for example, national communism, totalitarianism, nationalism, and now to the left we got the communists. To the right we got the Nazis, but the Nazis were defeated in the Second World War. Thanks God. Right? And the ones that survived, like pretty much the Chinese communism today is totally different thing because it's like a capitalist communist, it's something, it's a different thing, it's a hybrid, right? But still it's a very strong state, like, national communism and totalitarianism with one political party. They got a president, but they are elected by the communist, in this case, representatives, right? And but the market system is capitalist. What else? And on the right up, in this case, I said fascism, but there's pretty much no fascist government today. Maybe we can talk about, when we talk about totalitarianism or nationalism, maybe if we talk about Afghanistan and we talk about some, like Iran, for example, that's a religious totalitarianism, right? There's nationalism, of course, but there's no communism. It's a different, way of government, which is in this case a religious totalitarianism, right? Mutualism. There you go, Derek. Well, when we're going to talk about mutualism, in this case, that's pretty much similar to anarchism and is very related to, in this case, the anarchist movements in the 20th century, which is a very interesting political stance, a very interesting political doctrine, very, in this case, closer to anarcho-communism and anarcho-syndicalism, right? We're going to talk about that. Now, if we go down, we got anarcho-collectivism, syndicalism, anarcho-communism, anarcho-socialism, mutualism in this case, ultra-anarchism, anarchism in this case, and anarcho-capitalism. You know that there are someday, there are today, this sort of anarcho-capitalism, because they don't believe in a government, but they believe in money, right? So, and also in QAnon, for example, and the QAnon movement in the US is pretty much around this spectrum, against the US government in this case, but they believe in the carry of weapons, and they organize in communities which are a little bit anarchist, but they believe in money, right? And they don't believe in wearing masks and stuff like that. But mutualism is pretty much an idea that was related to federations, was related to anarchism, living in a community, in a society in which this different communities or federation, they share their stocks, they share their resources, but there's no government, there's no state, there's no president or dictator. It's just independent and autonomous communities in which they share, as I say, and they help each other in this mutual, in this case, support. Okay, that's mutualism. All right, and you, if you want to read somebody, you can read Bakunin and Kropotkin, right? Very interesting, right? But it's pretty much like reading Marx, because they were friends actually, and they fought actually. They were friends and they fought because of their ideas, but they were very closer in the 20th century and 19th century too, right? Syndicalism was also born of this relationship between anarchism and communism. That's why you got today ideas just like anarcho-socialism, anarcho-collectivism, anarcho-syndicalism, and stuff like that. Okay, it's basically a society without the state. All right. What else? And in the center, if we go to the center, we got liberalism, and to the left, social democrats, and to the right, we got ultra capitalism, we got conservatism, libertarian capitalism, and stuff like that. Okay, so it's the point is that I'm teaching you, you know, some of this political spectrum, but I don't expect you, in this case, use any label. I don't believe in stereotypes, but it's interesting in a way to pretty much place yourself in the chart, you know, to know how, in this case, to understand how, you know, the political, in this case, stances today. Also, we got this one, which is like in 3 dimensions. We got the economic focus, the societal focus, and the governmental focus. This is a little more complex because it's 3D. The economic focus in this case is right here. This is this side, for example. Governmental focus is this side, and the societal focus is right here. Okay. Regarding the economic focus, we can see, for example, market anarchism to the right and social anarchism to the left. Social democracy on the left, market democracy on the right, social republicanism on the left, market republicanism on the right. It's pretty much where you put the focus. If you put the focus on this, on the social aspect or the market aspect, right? That's the economic focus, how you see society. All right. And if you go down, there is anarchism, and if you go up, is monarchism or totalitarianism, right? Then if you check out this side, this in this case focus, we got the societal focus. You can see centrism, and then you got, if you in this case incline your head a little bit to the right, you can see up libertarianism, and then down communitarianism. On the left, liberalism, and on the right, conservatism. This is pretty much a societal focus, right? Not regarding the economics, right? And if you just move to the right even more, like this, you can see that in this case the governmental focus, and you can see tolerant anarchism and moral anarchism, you know, to the left and to the right. Okay, this is pretty much like the governmental focus, you know, the way governments rule the country, right? You got to the left tolerant democracy and to the right moral democracy, and this is pretty much like regarding the ideas. So we can see, for example, in the presidential debate, you can see a sort of moralism, which is to the left or the right. You know, conservatives, they got this religious moral, which is, you know, protecting the institution, protecting carabineros, protecting the church, protecting pretty much like all the traditions, which are more, let's say, to the right. And you got this, you know, moral republicanism. But on the left, then you can see tolerant anarchism, tolerant democracy, and tolerant republicanism. And that there are many people who are more anarchists, like against carabineros, against the government, against AFPs, but they still tolerate the others. I mean, they don't kill each other, basically, right? Like you can share pretty much the same space, but you don't share ideas. Okay. Um. Anyway, I don't know if you got any comments about this. You can use the microphone. You can in this case type something in the chat room. Any questions? I hope it could be a little enlightening about, you know, the way to analyze the political spectrum. It's not only about communism and fascism. That's so outdated, and there are many more, in this case, ways and sources to analyze the reality, the political realities, right? So if we continue with, in this case, the book, we got then elections. All right. This is pretty much the British reality. It's not the Chilean reality, but then we can make the comparison, the contrast. In a democracy, people vote for the political party, or pretty much, I mean, you can vote for the political party, you can vote for a coalition, or you can vote for people. I mean, it's up to you. It's the way you see the elections, right? The way I see it is that when you vote for somebody, you vote for ideas, you vote for political parties, and you vote for a team, and you vote for a coalition. It's not only voting about the person. That's my personal point of view anyway, right? Because this president, this person, this senator or major has a team, has a crew, and has ideas, and they are going to implement these ideas with the team, right? There's no other way to do it anyway. And yeah, for example, conservative, liberal, socialist, etc., and they want to form or make the government. Yes, they do this in an election. Yeah, everybody knows that in a democracy or republic. And in many countries, elections take place or are held every 4 years or 5 years, every 4 years in our case. Now, in this case, there are many different candidates today. Last night there was a debate, and in my personal opinion, I think that is good for a democracy to have many candidates, because it shows that independently that we have many political parties, and that we are living a political crisis, and sometimes politicians suck. We know that, but still, we got a strong democracy in the sense that we have many candidates who are trying to represent many different political positions in our country, right? In other countries, they have no elections whatsoever. People do not vote, right? Or they got only 2 candidates, which is so undemocratic in my personal opinion. Is having only 2 candidates is very, let's say, limiting for the people. For some others, it are that's more practical, but I think a strong democracy normally is a little chaotic and disorganized, but it's because we are trying to reach agreements. That's it, you know. Power to the people. Um, all right, political systems. I'd like somebody else to read. Maybe I don't know. What about Camila? Camila Miranda, would you like to read for us this paragraph? Would you? If you can't, it's okay. Hey,
Only the government?
please.
Government. Political systems are different all over the world. In the UK, when a political party wins a majority, 51% or more of seats, official positions in parliament, in an election, they become the government of the country. Their leader, ay, no puedo, profe, perdón.
It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. Go ahead.
The head of the party, person in control, becomes prime minister and they are in power. The government must have policies, programs of action to manage the country. This means, for example, an economic policy for the economy and a foreign policy for actions taken by the country in other parts of the world.
Thank you very much, Camila. Good job. Thanks a lot. Okie dokie. So, we know that every government might be good, mediocre, bad, etc. But they need policies. All right. And you know that depending on, in this case, the coalition, they got different ideas regarding the market, regarding the economic policy, regarding the morality of a country, regarding the laws, you know, the type of society that we want to build, etc. And even if we don't like maybe politics, or if we don't like the politicians that we have, it is important to participate. It is important to take part, because we're part of a community. Even if we don't like it, we are part of small communities like the districts or the villages we live, you know, the communities like condominiums and stuff like that. That's the micro communities, but the macro communities are the regions and the countries and also the continent in which we live and the world we live. All right. So maybe we'd like to run away and get out of this world, but we can't. We need to live in this society. So in our country, if we compare, for example, Chile and also the UK or the US, we don't have a prime minister. We got a president, which has a lot of power in comparison with the other state, in this case, powers like the legislative power, for example. The executive power, my personal opinion, has accumulated a lot of functions and influences the other two powers. I don't think that's right. I think that weakens democracies because the three powers in a democracy or in a republic were thought to fiscalize each other, right? The Supreme Court should fiscalize the executive, and the Congress should fiscalize the others. I mean, they fiscalize each other, right? That's the idea. And in that case, you distribute the power. And also, when the regions, for example, when the people vote for governors in every region or state, whatever nations have, in this case, the regions or states should be autonomous in their decisions, right? Of course, the federations, I mean, they agree to be together as part of a nation, as part of a country. But still, every region or every state has different needs, all right? So in Chile, we got a very centralist state. I think that's not good for democracies, right? I think democracies are strengthened when they have freedom and autonomy, in this case, to make their own decisions, and also how to use their resources. Of course, they contribute to the central government. I think that's okay, because there are decisions that have to be taken in the central government, but there are also decisions that should be taken in every region, right? But that's my personal point of view. In contrast with the UK government, because UK is a small country in comparison to Chile, right? They got more people, but the territory is smaller, right? It's just an island, and but they got this system, which is they got a prime minister, which is at the same time is the leader of the Labor Party or the other party, which is the conservative thing, right? So in the US is pretty much the Democrats and the Republicans, right? And normally the Republicans are more conservative and they are more market oriented, and on the left they are more socially oriented and more liberal, right? um and I don't know if you're going to make any comments about this. What do you think about the different government systems around the world? Because there are many different dimensions in regarding the ruling a country. The social aspect, the moral aspect, the economic aspect, etc., etc. There are many different factors, right? Especially today in our country, we are, in this case, we got the convention, the constitutional convention, which is, I think, historical. We can, of course, we can have our own criticism, because nothing is perfect. People are not perfect, but I think that it's very important to build a constitution which can be representative for everybody, and that we should include First Nations, or in this case, indigenous peoples should be considered in the new constitution. I think it's very important also to decide which kind of country we want. If we want to have a prime minister, if we want to have a federation, if we want to have states and not regions, if we want to, in this case, reshape the police, reshape the army, how we are going to use our resources, how are we going to redistribute the territory, how are we going to refund our nation, right? And that's the importance of the, in this case, the convention, right? But I think that, of course, there's the constituent power, and also the power that is established. Establishment is one thing, and the constituent power is different, right? And a lot of people do not understand that. The establishment is what we got so far now, and the establishment or the constituted power is going to fight to remain the same, remain in the power. And the conventional, in this case, the convention is the constituent power, el poder constituyente, right? And el poder constituido versus el poder constituyente is, in this case, trying to win this fight, right? This political fight. Many people want a different country and then a different world, and that's okay, right? We need to improve, we need to evolve, but the establishment is not going to allow it, right? And I think that this is pretty much like my analysis. I don't want to say this is a fact, but it's my opinion, right? So if we want a new nation, we need the convention to move forward so that we can have a better country, right? And to redistribute the power, because the power today is concentrated on the companies, the in this case, the corporations, and the state, which is in this case, and in the Congress. And I think that people need to have more power in this case, more power to decide. There should be more, in this case, opportunities to vote for the important topics. Okay, and I think we got used to let the representatives and the congressmen and women to decide for us. And I think that's not helping our democracy, right? Because that's why we are living in a political crisis, because we let the representatives and the senators and the deputies to do whatever they want. And that's not okay. There is a fourth power. The fourth power is, in this case, some people say it's the media, but I think it's the people themselves. We, the people, we fiscalize. We should fiscalize the representatives. We should fiscalize the president. We should fiscalize all the powers, because the power emanates from the people. The people, I mean, in this case, the communities we live should fiscalize the police and fiscalize the army. That's my personal point of view. But the original power is the people, right? Not the institutions, because human beings create the institutions. We created this nation, and we should fiscalize pretty much everything. And if we want to destroy everything, it's up to us. But we should decide, right? We have to make decisions. But that's my personal point of view. I don't want to, in this case, adoctrinarlos. That's my personal point of view. But I really want to, and state my case in this opportunity. Like, we the people create nations, and we create the power, we create the institutions and the different systems of government. That's pretty much self-evident. It's obvious, right? So that's why it is important to participate in the different elections and the democratic processes and everything, right? Any opinions, any comments? Nothing to say? I assume maybe everybody disagrees. Do you agree? It's okay to disagree. Okay. After that speech, it's what time is up? It's 11:15. Remember, tomorrow night, Friday midnight is the deadline for the short story. It's a spin-off that you can create based on any other short story, or maybe you can create an original short story. That's okay. And also next week, well, I'm gonna be recording a capsule regarding the rest of the contents, grammar contents that we haven't studied. And next week we should start unit number 2. Okay. And also, I'm going to be in this case attending physically at El Peda on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you want to meet me, or if a group, or if this class wants to meet me on Tuesdays or Fridays, go for it. Yeah, I'm gonna be there from midday until 5 p.m. In Spanish. Lo que pasa es que la U va a estar cerrada. Espérate, las van a cerrar desde las 5:30. Van a empezar como a cerrar todas las dependencias. Ya. Entonces yo me voy a quedar hasta las 5:30 de la tarde. Pero voy a estar allá como a las 12. Martes y viernes. ¿Ya? Entonces, si algunos o algunas de ustedes quieren ir y tener una tutoría, quieren tener una clase presencial, vayan para allá. Yo voy a estar en mi oficina, que es la primera oficina a la izquierda entrando en el departamento inglés. ¿Ya? O me hablan por WhatsApp y voy a estar ahí. ¿Ya? Martes y viernes. Eso no tiene nada que ver con nuestras clases online. Las clases online van a seguir tal cual, martes asincrónicos, miércoles y jueves clases online en las mañanas, ¿ya? No se tocan las clases online, pero sí voy a estar allá físicamente por si alguien quiere, un grupo, quieren hacer clases dentro de una sala, si aguanta el aforo, la hacemos dentro de la sala, si es que está disponible. Y si no, hacemos clases afuera en el pasto nomás, donde sea, porque el campus es gigante. Ya, si nos reunimos en el depto, después nos vamos para cualquier lado con la silla y hacemos una clase tutorial, lo que sea, ¿ya? Nayareth, I think it's true that we have the power to make changes, but maybe the system stop us in the way that we think nothing is going to change. Exactly. Yep, I agree with you, Nayareth, but that's pretty much in our minds, right? Or the establishment wants to make us believe that we cannot do anything, right? But we can. Potentially we can, right? So we need to defeat our minds first. ¿Qué más? Eso, pues, chicos, chicas. Si van la próxima semana, me avisan, nos ponemos de acuerdo en un horario, ¿cierto? Y si no, bien también. Yo voy a ir igual porque quiero aprovechar los espacios allá para poder trabajar y todo eso, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. Y porque necesito un poquito salir de la casa, porque si no me voy a volver loco. ¿Ya? Eso, sayonara des. See you next week and have a great weekend. Bye bye. Chabela, Chalupa, thank you, show professor.